So, the Nintendo Switch 2 has been out for a little bit by this point, and, now that we've gotten some more experience with it, I thought it'd be a good time to look at some of the better games that you can currently play on it. Now, I will update this list a little bit later in the year as well as more games start to release, but I do feel like its launch has been fairly strong, in part because Nintendo really undersold certain aspects of this platform. So it's not just brand new games that are impressive, but it's also older games that essentially feels like they're brand new. So let's just have some fun with this and take a look at 15 games that are currently available on the Switch 2 that you should absolutely consider playing. At number 15, I have Fast Fusion. Nintendo fans have been begging for a new F-Zero title for years and years and years, and who knows if we'll ever actually get a brand new entry, crossing my fingers that we eventually do, but at the very least, we have seen other developers pick up some of that slack, and Fast Fusion is one of those games. This is a franchise that's really cemented itself as some of the better futuristic high-speed racers. It's fast and it is glorious in motion. So if you've had enough of Mario Kart, if you want to try something just a little bit different, don't sleep on Fast Fusion, especially considering it's actually one of the most affordable Switch 2 titles at just $15. That is an absolute steal for what you're getting from Fast Fusion. Now, next up here, I have Hogwarts Legacy, and admittedly, I'm not a massive fan of this game. I did enjoy it for what it was because I do like the Harry Potter universe and its characters, but the thing is I think the story in Hogwarts Legacy is average at best, and that's really one of the main reasons that I love this franchise, so that left me a little bit disappointed. However, at the same time, it has a magical world to explore, and the combat feels surprisingly good. So, if you're a Harry Potter fan, you can easily get absorbed into its world alone. And it's also just one of the better early showcases for the Switch 2. I mean, this is a night and day improvement over what fans had on the Switch 1. This version holds up a lot better compared to other modern platforms, and that's an incredible feeling to just think that the Switch 2 will actually receive legitimate AAA games this generation. Now, speaking of legitimate AAA games on the Switch 2, let's just go and talk about Street Fighter 6. This is one of the best and most popular fighting games that you can possibly play, and it's now fully available on the Switch 2, and this one really pops on the Switch 2. A part of that might be because of its attractive art style. It just looks really good in motion, but debatably, it's also difficult to spot the graphical differences between the Switch 2 and the PlayStation 5. So I think that says a lot about the Switch 2 and what it's capable of. All in all, though, if you like fighting games, then really Street Fighter 6 is a must-play experience, and the fact that it's finally available on a Nintendo platform is incredible to see. Number 12, one of the biggest surprises this early on in the Switch 2 life cycle is a small independent game by the name of Ruffy and the Riverside. Now, this is a 3D platformer that really reminds me a lot of Banjo-Kazooie, but also combined with Paper Mario-esque characters and a very unique puzzle element. Essentially, you're able to swap surfaces with identical elements. So let's just kind of say you run into lava as one such example. Well, it being a liquid, you can swap it with, let's say, water. And that applies to all kinds of different surfaces and elements. It really makes for some very well thought out puzzles, and if that's your jam, then you need to try this game out. Ruffy and the Riverside is a game that not many people are currently talking about, but don't be shocked when it shows up on various different hidden gem lists over the next 12 or so months. Now, here at number 11, we have our first Switch 1 title that honestly feels just so much better that we might as well just go and call it a Switch 2 title, being Bayonetta 3. I mean, this has always been a fun, fast-paced action game, and really one of the better action games of the last 5 years at that. But it was also fairly clear that it was pushing the Switch 1 to its absolute limit. Its performance left a lot to be desired, to the point that, for some people, it really became difficult to enjoy. Now, that's no longer the case, though, thanks to the Switch 2. It brute forces its frame rate to a buttery smooth 60 frames per second, and now finally, Bayonetta 3 can be played the way that it was always meant to be played in the first place. So if you haven't already played Bayonetta 3, you absolutely need to change that, and even if you've already played it, I mean, still, the Switch 2 is transformative for its gameplay. Now, here at number 10, speaking of transformative, There might not be a better example of that than Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. It received a free Switch 2 upgrade that completely transforms the absolute mess that we had to deal with on the Switch 1. Quite frankly, the Switch 1 version was inexcusable to say the least, but on the Switch 2, it has better frame rate and also better draw distance. Now, it's still not a graphical showcase per se, don't go in with that expectation, but if you like the Pokemon formula, it's still a great game. There's hundreds of Pokemon to catch and battle, not only for its main story, but also for its many expansions that has released since launch. And it also, of course, has competitive play, which I still think is one of the most unique elements for the Pokemon franchise. That, to me, that's one of the reasons that the Pokemon series has been so special, because if you like true strategy, then you need to try Pokemon's competitive scene. Number 9, one of my favorite franchises made its way over to the Switch 2 launch lineup, being Yakuza 0. I mean, if you like gripping stories with twists and turns, this, in my opinion, is one of the absolute best story-driven games of all time. Not just on the Switch 2, but of all time. Now, admittedly, it is a long franchise, so I understand that scares some people off, but Yakuza 0 is the perfect entry to jump into. Yakuza 0 is the beginning of the Kiryu and Majima timelines and how their stories originated. I mean, honestly, I can't even explain how good its story and characters are, but I'm thrilled to see that it's on the Switch 2 with actual good performance. It runs at 60 FPS with also good visuals. Okay, so here at number 8, we're going to go back 20 years ago because I remember vividly playing through Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3. I was so addicted to that game back then and just doing crazy stuff. I even asked my mom for a skateboard afterwards because I just needed to try it for myself. Now, honestly, I wasn't good. I stuck to basketball after that, but I have very fond memories of Tony Hawk, specifically on the Nintendo GameCube. So to see this game with a remake and Tony Hawk 4's return to a Nintendo platform with actually good visuals and performance, it's just a chef's kiss. Now, these games are very arcadey in nature, they're kind of goofy on the surface, but they're also some of the most fun games that you can play currently on the Switch 2. Now, here at lucky number 7, I have Bravely Default HD. Now, this is one of my all-time favorite JRPGs. It originated on the 3DS years ago, which, a little bit of a backstory here. Its development started as a new Final Fantasy project, and you can absolutely tell from the final product. It very much plays like an old-school classic Final Fantasy game in everything, but pretty much its name. You journey the world with some companions, you can swap jobs, you find crystals, and there's a deep story with great, memorable characters. It's just a really good JRPG if you like that classic style, with, in my opinion, one of the best turn-based systems in really any game ever made. It can be very challenging and very rewarding. The only problem with this game, though, is that its pacing is, yes, really bad the closer you get to its end. However, Bravely Default HD really transforms that original title. It was always a good-looking game and a good showcase for the 3DS and its 3D feature, but they really made its world even more beautiful on the Switch 2. I was very impressed the first time I booted it up. I think the only thing that I'm disappointed about is that its physical release is a game key card. I wish that it was truly physical, but even still, it's still one of my favorite JRPGs ever made. Number 6, Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. This is a game that I bought last year for the Switch 1, and I was really enjoying it at the time for what it was, but its frame rate was just so terrible that I decided to put it on hold. I made an entire video about it because I had a strong feeling that the Switch 2 would fix its problems, and lo and behold, it absolutely does. Honestly, I feel like they should have just launched this as a Switch 2 exclusive. It would have been much better received because it runs amazingly well, and its art style is just so beautiful. It's also one of the most unique games that I've played in years. Now, its combat can be clunky at times, there's no doubt about that, but the entire gimmick for this game is that Zelda can make echoes of almost any object or any creature that she encounters. So it's a very creative puzzle-driven experience, but in my opinion, that's really the best parts of the classic over-the-top Zelda formula. So to have an entire game centered on that, I think is very fitting. Echoes of Wisdom, though, does kind of remind me a bit of Breath of the Wild in the freedom that it gives you to solve puzzles. So it's a bit of a combination of both formulas, classic Zelda, but also with that new school Breath of the Wild feel. And I also have to say that if you set it to hero mode, the boss fights are actually a lot of fun because they can legitimately be challenging at times. Number 5, Fantasy Life I. Fans have been going crazy over this game, and really for a very good reason. It's probably the biggest surprise for the Switch 2 launch lineup. For whatever reason, it hasn't exactly received a ton of buzz from the media, but it continues to be one of the most praised Switch 2 games, specifically from fans. It's a level 5 developed game, so as expected, it oozes charm. They've made games like Ni no Kuni, the Yokai Watch series, and Professor Layton, but it's the gameplay that has fans just so addicted. Its subtitle is ironically The Girl Who Steals Time because, this game actually will steal all of your time. It's often compared to games like Animal Crossing, but it's also an RPG. It has Zelda-like elements to it. It has Final Fantasy-like elements to it. So there's a lot more to Fantasy Life I than just your typical farming simulator. And I think that's one of the main reasons that it's reaching people that aren't typically into these type of games. Number 4, if you're looking for a Switch 2 showpiece to see what its hardware is truly capable of, look no further than Cyberpunk 2077. Developed by the same masterminds that brought us The Witcher 3, comes a futuristic open world which can be best described as GTA-like. Now, when this game originally released back in, I believe it was 2020, it had a ton, and I mean an absolute ton of problems. But I think that's one of the best things about the Switch 2 version. Unlike a lot of its launch lineup, it has a true physical release with its data on the cartridge, and this version is the only complete version of Cyberpunk that's currently available for any platform. So Nintendo fans, yes, you had to wait a little while to actually play it, but in some ways, you've been rewarded not only with a less buggy experience, but also a definitive release for physical collectors. Number 3, Zelda Breath of the Wild and Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Here we have an upgraded game from 2017 that was originally developed for the Wii U, and even all of these years later, it is still one of the most beloved games that you can possibly play. Unlike the 2017 version, though, the visuals actually look good this time with improved clarity and improved performance. It is a significant improvement. I've even seen some people say that they didn't enjoy it back in 2017, but now they completely understand the adoration for it. And maybe that's because its upgraded visuals is helping some people to become a little bit more immersed by its world. If anything else, the Switch 2 version of both games completely transforms them, and if you haven't already played them, then really, the time is now. Number 2, as hard as it is to believe, it's been more than a decade since the last brand new Mario Kart game. But in that stretch of time, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe became so big that there was a very real question about how in the world is Nintendo going to be able to follow that experience up. Well, Nintendo did that by giving Mario Kart its biggest makeover in history by introducing for the first time ever an open world experience. Now, this does come included with some fun new ideas. You can either explore its open world for various minigames and hidden collectibles, or you can even try its new Knockout Tour, which is actually a blast to play. Even more so because there's a lot of new strategies that comes along with Mario Kart World. You can now grind and wall ride your way to victory. Now, unfortunately, I don't think that its level design is quite as good as Mario Kart 8, but it's important to keep in mind that it's still in its infancy stage. Mario Kart 8 had a very long time to grow to the game that it is today. So I'm excited to see how Mario Kart World grows over time, and especially as more players learns how to take advantage of its brand new mechanics. And at the number 1 spot, of course, it has to go to Donkey Kong Bonanza. I've been waiting for a brand new 3D Donkey Kong game for nearly 30 years, which is crazy to think about. And even though Bonanza isn't quite what I was asking for, I think I actually like it even more because of that. And the reason I say that is because we don't really get a lot of completely unique experiences in the modern day of gaming. Most games tries to copy something else. But Donkey Kong Bonanza really doesn't feel like anything else that I've ever played before. Yes, it draws inspiration from games like Zelda Breath of the Wild and also Mario Odyssey, considering, yes, it comes from the same team, but because you can destroy practically everything, it completely changes how you approach a game like this. It's a very unique experience, to say the least, but if I had to describe this game in one word, it would simply be distraction. There are hundreds upon hundreds of collectibles in this game, and there's a ton of mini games that you can find, similar to how Breath of the Wild does its shrines. So you're constantly going out of your way to do all of these different things, and the thing is that it's always fun. There's even power-ups that you can level up. And truthfully, I think this game could actually go down as one of the greatest 3D platformers of all time. That's how good this game is, in part because it really is its own thing and brings a brand new spin on a genre that rarely changes. So, yeah, that nearly 30-year wait for a 3D Donkey Kong game was absolutely worth it, and it is a must-play experience for the Switch 2. Anyways, though, that's going to be this list. I hope you enjoyed this video, but if I didn't include one of your favorite games, do let me know in the comments below. But in the meantime, enjoy your Switch 2, and I'll see you next time. Peace out.